You were saying?
What I was saying was in reference to using the RTLFs in the soul recognition work, what I found over the past couple of years in using them is that there's an individual response and there's a collective field response. And so if I talk about the individual response first, it seems as if one of the things that happen when we hold the point of neutrality or balance that is represented in the RTLFs or the love frequency, which to me is synonymous, is that we no longer have this idea that we're separate, no longer have the idea that there's a part of us that doesn't understand how to love or what love is. We become the frequency of love because the frequency of love is who we are anyway. And so the RTLFs lift us to that place of being able to acknowledge that we are love. And then when that happens in a large crowd of people or a large field or a workshop setting, it has the opportunity then to reflect to each person their capacity to love in a very practical way, in a very experiential way, because the work I do is really experiential, so that we can see it in action. We can see what would happen in a society or in a relationship or in a family where that percentage of consciousness was viable in the environment, where there was this catalyzing of the potential for human beings to live their divinity. And so that RTLFs seem to encourage the return to the heart, the return to the love, the acknowledgement that that's the foundation of what life is.
Mm-hmm. Could you be more specific and give me an instance of something
Well, what I find is that people generally have some reserve when they come into a group. They have the intention to participate, the intention to be involved and to move out of whatever shell they have or whatever conditioning they have or whatever trauma they've endured. But they have to take incremental steps in order for that to happen. Now, part of the soul work that we do is to imbue and entrain, in a sense, that sense of safety, the sense of community and collectivity in terms of being in oneness. And we talk about that and so forth, but we also give the experience. With the RTLFs, what I found is people move more closely to the threshold of that oneness without understanding it. So their mind doesn't get in the way, and they don't have this idea that there's something that they have to do. It's much more, oh, this is so natural because holding the RTLFs brings people to a place of that 0 point or creativity or balance or oneness or God or however we think about it, doesn't even matter to me, 0 point. But when they come to that place, it actually forestalls the mind's interpretation of it and it moves it through. So what I observe is that people are much more ready to take risks. They're more available to each other. If we've had a situation one time recently where a couple of our facilitators had some really strong karmic challenge. They didn't trust each other. And it was obvious they didn't trust each other, and they tried all kinds of different things and talking, whatever, that didn't work. But they have had exposure to the RTLFs, and each one of them has a set of the RTLFs, and I think also the feminine frequencies. And what I found was when we came right to that place where they didn't quite know how to connect that fundamental sense of oneness into actually believing they could be in a different state with each other, just naming that they didn't trust each other, there was this moment of realization and an aha, and then they moved immediately into a state of recognition of what had been in the way of that, and then moved into a space of embracing it. They didn't need time to understand it, to process it, to see if it was valid. They just moved into it. And my feeling about it is that the RTLFs create an environment where we're able, not consciously, but in a cellular sense, osmotically is my language, we're able to really feel the existence of that which birthed us, the existence of that which holds this universe in order. the space of possibility and potential, and it's always there. So that when we come into these places within ourselves where we have the challenges or the stuckness, it's quite a loud reverberation because the environment is such that it doesn't sustain that conflict. And then all of a sudden we realize, oh, if we breathe, that conflict really isn't there. So it actually teaches us how to trust the body more, trust the connection to the earth and each other, the Divine Mother, all of that not so practical, linear left brain, but the essential spaces inside of us. I call it, the essence, the soul, the capacity to be in that space. And so the RTLFs are actually creating the environment for that to happen much more readily, but also in those moments that we forget or we have a pattern that we seem to feel that we need to embrace or enjoy or whatever. The pattern can't hold in the field where that type of separation isn't being reflected back. Now, if we're in a group of people and everybody's in their mind and they're trying to figure everything out and there's some judgment going on, then the reflection is, yeah, this is the normal human way to do it because we're not safe with each other. Whereas if you have RTLFs in the environment, you immediately know that there's something else that just is barely palpable that offers you another choice. As I say to my 2-year-old granddaughter, you're going to make a good decision here, and people can then make a good decision. And it's not based on some very far-fetched religious idea that there's a God someplace. It's based upon the fact that God's here, that love is here. And we don't have to look so hard for it anymore. And that's why I honor your work so much, because it's the most effective way to care, is to give a tool that will shift not just the perception of what's happening, but the actuality of what's happening.